All right, we are back at Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park where we'll be doing lots of photography and sharing it with you. Come along with us. Let's get back into the action right now. Okay, we just got off the safari ride for the second time, and now we are finally going to walk down the Gorilla Falls Expedition Trail. So now we're on the Gorilla Falls Trail, and we got to the bird aviary, and they had just put food out. And it was great because a lot of times on the Gorilla Falls Trail, you don't see all that many birds. But we saw this, what'd you say it was, honey?
It's a red and yellow barbet.
Red and yellow barbet. I loved this bird. It only came down to the feeder for just a minute, and then it flew away. And so all my shots are on the feeder. But I just fell in love with this beautiful bird and made as many shots as I could. Here's a 238 millimeter shot of it and a 500 millimeter shot. This is a white-headed buffalo weaver. Last July's Animal Kingdom video, I featured one of these on the thumbnail, and it was cool. This is the second time I've managed to get a photograph of these at the Gorilla Falls Trail. This long-tailed bird is a speckled mouse bird. I thought he looked like he was stoned in this photograph. They were down on the feeder, and I took a number of pictures of them, and I wasn't happy with any of them. And really, I'm not all that happy with this one, but it was definitely the best picture I got of it. 238 millimeters. Look at the shutter speed, 1/40th of a second. It was so dark there. This is the snowy crowned robin chat. First time I'd ever gotten a photograph of one of these on the Gorilla Falls Expedition Trail, and as you can see, it's 1/40th of a second, and I made probably 50 photos of this guy while it was down fairly near the feeder, and all of them are at 1/40th of a second. Look, 12,800 ISO. There's still a little bit of motion blur in this. This one's probably the better of the two, but I like both of them. And I ended up sharing this one on social media, and I haven't shared this one yet, but really like this puffy, beautiful bird. This is a purple starling. I did get one photograph of this guy or one of these guys last July, but I got a number that I liked of this guy this year. This is 1/40th of a second, again, 4,000 ISO down near the feeder. Beautiful bird, lots of great colors, and I love those bright yellow eyes. This is an African pygmy goose. There's a little bit of motion blur in this shot, so I'm not crazy about it, but this thing is absolutely tiny. These birds are much, much smaller than like a mallard, and they're smaller than smaller ducks. Just a really, really small, and it's a goose, not a duck. Beautiful bird. This is a marbled duck. I've photographed these 2 or 3 times before on the Gorilla Falls Expedition Trail, and their conservation status is vulnerable, which is funny because here they're easy to get a photo of. And I really liked that it had pretty good light on it, but the water around it was so dark, so it really pops in the photograph. 1/160th of a second ISO 1600 300 millimeters. This bird was huge, and I've seen one of these before on the Gorilla Falls Expedition Trail, but they hadn't just put the food out, so it was way up in the canopy. But this time I got a really up-close shot of it. And Heather, what's it called?
It's a great blue turaco.
Awesome. Beautiful bird, and it was just fantastic to be able to get a shot of it with nothing in the way. I hate it that there's food in the frame, but you know what? I'm taking pictures at a zoo, so who cares? And this is an up-close shot of it. Let's see, the other one was 176 millimeters to fit the whole bird in the frame. And then I zoomed it up to 500 millimeters, 1/100th of a second, and 8,000 ISO to get this up-close shot of its head. I did not make a photograph of this African jacana, but here's a quick video clip of it as it's hanging around on the ground on the exploration trail. This kind of unfortunate looking bird is an African olive pigeon. I think it's molting. I'd say its head doesn't look that way all the time, but I got a couple of pictures of it. It was not on the feeder. 10,000 ISO and 1/100th of a second for this shot. And here's another one with the same settings. Both are 270 millimeters. I was happy to get the shot because I've never photographed one of these before, but otherwise I wasn't all that pleased with these. I went back and bagged another photograph, maybe even more striking, of the marbled duck. Now these are small. They're not as small as that little goose that we saw, but they're still smaller than most ducks that you're used to seeing if you hang around in Tennessee. Another 1/100th shot and ISO 2500. I made this shot. There's a water feature in the area, and it has a little waterfall. and I've slowed the camera down to 1/5 of a second and rattled off a bunch of shots. And eventually, if you do that in the fast drive mode, one of them won't have motion blur, and you'll get some slick water and sharpness other ways. This is the little yellow weaver bird that you always see on the Gorilla Falls Expedition Trail. And the funny thing is, I think the last video I made, I had 3 or 4 pictures of these, but because I always get so many pictures of them, and there were so many other birds that were showing up this time, I didn't share a single picture. But Heather got one 330 millimeter shot, and I actually got a picture of one of these, or a video of one of these in a bird bath. Here is the bird bath video clip that I made, and now let's get back to Heather's photos. Here's Heather's shot of the white-headed buffalo weaver, kind of an interesting angle. Makes it look pretty regal up there on that branch. 1/160th of a second and 145 millimeters. Heather took advantage of the opportunity to photograph the great blue turaco as it came down to the feeder. What an amazing bird. It's so awesome to be able to see this bird up close. Here's Heather's marbled duck photograph there at 170 millimeters. And here is another 170 millimeter marbled duck shot. She got a couple of different head angles there in the waters on the Gorilla Falls Expedition Trail. Here's Heather's shot of the African pygmy goose. Just beautiful colors on this tiny, tiny waterfowl.
But I recommend if
We are at the bird show. We're going to try to make some pictures and video clips.
Almost 30 free-flighted macaws flying around the tree of life.
While they are setting up for the bird show, this Rhode Island red comes out and changes the channel several times, and then the person setting up changes it back. It's a lot of fun. There's the Rhode Island red that's changing the radio station before the bird show. 500 millimeter shot. We were on the back row at the bird show on the right-hand side, and it turned out to be a pretty good place to make photos during the show. As you can see, this is the roseate spoonbill that flew down the middle. It started in the center in the back and flew all the way to the stage. And usually we try to sit in the middle, and I don't get a picture of this thing at all because it flies right over my head. But we sat on the side, and I was able to get a pretty decent shot at 300 millimeters of, I believe this is probably a juvenile roseate spoonbill flying towards the stage. All right, I was really thrilled with these in-flight photos of the African hornbill. I was shooting at 1/1000th, and I had auto ISO, so I could always get a decent exposure. And unfortunately, that took 25,600 ISO, but I got this in-flight shot, and you can see over in this area, these are people in the upper level of the audience over here, and as this bird is flying around. Here is another shot of it, another 1/1000th and 25,600 ISO shot, and another one. Now it's flying back, and you can still see the crowd watching the bird fly over. It's just an awesome show, and I was just thrilled, even though there's a lot of noise in it, to get a sharp photo of this bird in flight. And here is another one. Now this one, it's coming down to where there's some natural light on it, and look, the previous picture was 10,000, the one before that was 25,600, and this one is only 5,000 ISO. So situations like that, auto ISO is really helpful, because I would not have been able to correct the exposure myself as I followed this bird flying around the auditorium. This huge, huge bird at 20,000 ISO is a greater adjutant. It's a type of stork. There's a ton of noise in this picture, but I don't care. I was happy to get a sharp photo of this huge bird in flight at the bird show. Here's another shot of it flying back in the other direction. Kind of, I like it. Its feathers on the back of its head almost look like an old man's hair. It's kind of a funny looking bird. I like it. 16,000 ISO for this one. There's Hope, the bald eagle that they always bring out at the end of the bird show. Just beautiful. I wish that she could be rehabilitated and set off into the wild, but unfortunately she can't. But it's still cool to see her there at the bird show. We see this bird every year. This is another one of the birds that they bring out at the end of the bird show. It doesn't do any tricks, and nor does Hope, but this knobbed hornbill is very interesting to see when they bring it out at the end of the bird show. This is kind of the pre-show for the bird show. They bring out a screech owl, and this guy kind of talks to the crowd for a little bit. But the crazy thing about it is they have the lights from the side of the stage shining on him, and they have them a really bright magenta. and it just ruins the photo. So the only choice was to make it in black and white, and so that's what Heather did. And this, like I say, this is from the back row. Well, it's not from the back row of the entire auditorium, but it's from the back row of the lower level. This is the yellow-headed Amazon parrot that can sing Old MacDonald Had a Farm. I've got a video of that somewhere.
This is Keto. She's a yellowhead Amazon, double yellowhead Amazon parrot. Quite a mouthful, right? Yeah, it's pretty good, pretty cute. But Keto has also lived around Animal Kingdom her whole life, so she's picked up on some really fun animal impressions, like the big scary tiger. One more. Very good. Pretty cute. And if that was too scary for you, she does have the tamer version, the little house tiger, the kitty cat. Okay, but my favorite thing that Keto does is she sings a song about a farm. Do you want to see if she'll share it with all of you today? Yeah, okay. Keto, are you ready? Let's sing. Here we go. Are you ready? Hi, yeah, let's go.
This is Heather's last photo from Animal Kingdom. She had one battery that failed and another one she drained it dry, and I should have left my ZFC batteries in my camera bag, but I took them out, and if I had brought them, she could have shot the rest of the day. But she made her last shot of Hope, the beautiful bald eagle that they show us at the end of the bird show. All right, that's going to do it for this segment of our video from Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see some more content like this. And we look forward to seeing you in our next video.